Scout, a rescue dog adopted by the Carter family, proves to be more than just a loyal companion. Living in a remote cabin in Montana, the Carters, Ethan, Anna, their baby Noah, and Scout face a terrifying challenge when Scout begins exhibiting unusual behavior. His persistent warnings lead them to discover dangerous structural damage in their home, worsened by an impending storm. As the storm rages, Scout's bravery saves the family from a life-threatening collapse, earning him the title of a local hero. With the help of their supportive community, the Carters rebuild their home, stronger and closer than ever. Scout's story inspires others to adopt rescue animals, showcasing the powerful bond between humans and their pets. The Carter family learns invaluable lessons about trust, resilience, and the unwavering loyalty of their furry guardian. Are you watching from the US, Canada, or somewhere else? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and subscribe to DG Story. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss another heartwarming tale. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more inspiring stories. The Carter family had always envisioned their life as a serene escape from the chaos of city living. Nestled on the slopes of the Rocky Mountains in Montana, their home, a rustic log cabin, offered peace, breathtaking views, and plenty of room for their growing family. Ethan, a remote working architect, spent his days designing modern homes, while Anna, a former teacher, cared for their 6-month-old son. Noah, the family's golden retriever, Scout, was the heart of their home. Adopted from a rescue shelter a year prior, Scout had quickly become a loyal companion. His calm demeanor and protective instincts were especially evident after Noah's birth. Scout rarely left Noah's side, often lying near his crib as if to watch over him. It was on a snowy evening in late January when Anna noticed Scout's unusual behavior. She had just finished putting Noah to bed and was tidying up the nursery when she saw Scout standing near the crib, staring intently at the far corner of the room. "Scout!" Anna called softly, but the dog didn't budge. His ears were perked, his tail low, and a low growl rumbled in his throat. Ethan walked in, carrying a mug of tea. "What's he doing?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Anna shrugged, uneasy. "I don't know. He's been doing this for the past few nights, just staring and growling at that corner." Ethan knelt beside Scout, scratching behind his ears. "There's nothing there, buddy," he said reassuringly, but Scout remained fixated, his body tense. They dismissed it as a harmless quirk, perhaps a shadow or a noise outside that only Scout could detect. But the behavior continued. Every night, as they put Noah to sleep, Scout would take up his post by the crib, his eyes fixed on the same corner of the room. A week later, Anna's unease grew. She had begun to notice a faint, cold draft in the nursery, even though the windows were sealed tightly. One night, as she tucked Noah in, she paused to inspect the room. She ran her hand along the walls and windows but couldn't pinpoint the source of the chill. Scout's behavior escalated. He began pacing back and forth between the crib and the corner of the room, occasionally barking a sharp, low sound that made Anna's heart race. Ethan, skeptical of Anna's concerns, tried to reassure her. "Dogs are just sensitive to things we can't see," he said. "Maybe it's the wind outside or the heater kicking on." But deep down, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. "It's not just the cold," she murmured one night as she watched Scout from the doorway. "He's trying to tell us something." One particularly frigid night, Anna woke to the sound of Scout barking sharply. The noise cut through the silence of their home, startling her awake. She glanced at the clock, 2:17 a.m. "Ethan," she whispered, nudging her husband. "Scout's barking again." Ethan groaned, rubbing his eyes as he sat up. "Probably just a raccoon or something outside," he muttered. But as the barking continued, Anna's anxiety grew. "It's coming from Noah's room," she said, already climbing out of bed. They hurried down the hall, finding Scout standing by Noah's crib, growling and baring his teeth at the same corner of the room. The faint draft Anna had noticed earlier seemed colder now, sending a shiver down her spine. Ethan turned on the light and scanned the corner. "There's nothing there," he said, stepping closer. He knelt, pressing his hand against the floor and walls. "Cold," he murmured, frowning, but no sign of moisture or cracks. Scout barked again, pulling Ethan's attention back. The dog's intensity was unsettling. His normally calm eyes were wide, and his tail was stiff. He seemed to be protecting Noah, who slept peacefully in his crib, unaware of the commotion. The next morning, Ethan decided to inspect the room more thoroughly. He moved the crib away from the corner and began examining the wall. As he tapped on the wooden paneling, he noticed a faint hollow sound in one spot. "Anna, come here," he called. Anna entered the room, holding Noah in her arms. "What is it?" Ethan pointed to the wall. "This section feels different. It's hollow, like there might be space or damage behind it." He retrieved his toolkit and carefully pried off a small section of the paneling. What he found made his stomach drop. Beneath the wood, the framework of the wall was damp and partially rotted, with small cracks spreading outward like a spiderweb. "Water damage," Ethan muttered. "This must be where that draft is coming from." Anna's eyes widened. "How bad is it?" "I don't know yet," Ethan admitted, "but we'll need to have someone look at this. If it's this bad here, there could be more damage in other parts of the house." That evening, Ethan called a contractor to schedule an inspection. As they waited for professional help, Scout's behavior remained unchanged. He stayed near the crib, his body tense and alert, as if he could sense that the problem was more serious than they realized. Anna began to see Scout in a new light. "He's not just acting on instinct," she told Ethan one evening. "It's like he knows something we don't. Maybe he's trying to protect Noah." Ethan, still skeptical but increasingly uneasy, nodded. "Either way, we'll figure this out," he said. "But until we do, I'm not taking any chances." With Scout keeping watch and the family determined to uncover the truth, the stage was set for a discovery that would change everything. The day after Ethan discovered the water damage, he contacted a contractor, hoping to get a clearer picture of the problem. The contractor, a burly man named Jack, arrived the next morning with tools and a serious demeanor. As he began his inspection, Anna hovered anxiously nearby with Noah in her arms, while Scout lay by her feet, watching Jack's every move. Jack peeled away more of the wooden paneling in the corner where the damage was worst. As he worked, he shook his head. "This is bad," he muttered. "Water's been seeping in here for years, probably from the roof. It's rotted through the inner framework." Ethan's stomach sank. "How bad are we talking?" Jack paused, running his fingers over the exposed beams. "If it's just this corner, it's fixable. But if the water spread to the foundation or other parts of the house..." He didn't finish his sentence, but the implication was clear. Scout let out a soft growl, his eyes fixed on the wall Jack was inspecting. Jack glanced down at the dog and chuckled nervously. "He's a sharp one, isn't he?" Anna nodded. "He's been acting like this for weeks. It's like he knew something was wrong before we did." Jack stood, brushing dust from his hands. "Dogs are like that. They pick up on things, vibrations, sounds, smells that we miss. You're lucky he's here." As Jack continued his inspection, he uncovered more signs of damage. The water had seeped deeper than they'd feared, affecting part of the ceiling and a section of the floor beneath the nursery. "This isn't just a quick patch job," Jack said, his tone grim. "You'll need a structural engineer to take a look at this. If the foundation's been compromised." Ethan nodded, his face pale. "I'll make the call." That evening, as the family gathered in the living room, the weight of the situation hung heavy in the air. Anna cradled Noah while Ethan paced back and forth, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. "What if the house isn't safe anymore?" Anna asked softly. Ethan stopped pacing and sat beside her. "We'll figure it out," he said firmly. Noah's safety comes first. If we have to move out temporarily, we will. Scout, sensing their distress, climbed onto the couch and rested his head on Anna's lap. She stroked his fur, grateful for his steady presence. That night, Scout's behavior took another unsettling turn. As the wind howled outside, he refused to leave the nursery, barking sharply at the corner where the damage had been uncovered. Ethan and Anna rushed to the room, finding Scout standing protectively in front of Noah's crib. His bark was louder, more urgent than before. "It's like he's warning us," Anna whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan nodded, his skepticism melting away. "We need to take this seriously," he said. "Scout might be seeing something we're not." The following morning, Ethan reached out to a structural engineer named Greg, who agreed to come by that afternoon. While waiting for Greg's arrival, Ethan and Anna decided to keep Noah out of the nursery, setting up a makeshift sleeping area in their bedroom. Scout stayed close to Noah, refusing to leave the baby's side even for a moment. Greg was a meticulous man in his 50s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. After a thorough inspection of the exposed damage in the nursery, he expanded his examination to the rest of the house. "The water infiltration here is severe," Greg explained, pointing to the diagrams he'd sketched. "It's not just the corner of the nursery. The moisture has spread to the supporting beams in this section of the house, weakening the structure significantly." Anna's face turned pale. "Is it dangerous?" Greg hesitated. "If there's a strong enough external force, like a heavy snowstorm or strong winds, it could cause part of the house to collapse. I recommend vacating this section until repairs can be made." Ethan nodded grimly. "How long would that take?" "Depends on the extent of the damage," Greg replied. "You'll need a construction team to fully assess and reinforce the structure. But I'll be honest, it's not going to be quick or cheap." That evening, as the family discussed their options, Scout's behavior grew even more alarming. He began pacing between the living room and the nursery, occasionally letting out sharp barks. "He knows something we don't," Anna said, watching him anxiously. "It's not just about the structural damage. There's something else." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You think it's more than the house?" Anna hesitated, then nodded. "Maybe it's the vibrations, like Greg said, or maybe he's sensing something deeper." Scout's behavior had always been protective, but now it felt almost desperate. As the night wore on, his vigilance only intensified. Around midnight, the wind began to pick up, howling through the trees outside their home. The weather forecast had predicted a mild storm, but as the hours passed, it became clear that this was anything but ordinary. The gusts grew stronger, shaking the windows, and heavy snow began to pile up on the roof. Scout's barks became frantic. He stood by the door to the nursery, scratching at it with his paws. "We need to get out of here," Anna said, panic rising in her voice. Ethan hesitated, torn between staying and leaving in the middle of the storm. But when a loud creak echoed through the house, followed by a thud that made the floor vibrate, his decision was made. "Grab Noah and whatever you can carry," he said urgently. "We're leaving now." Anna scooped up Noah while Ethan grabbed a bag of essentials. Scout led the way, barking sharply as if urging them to move faster. The storm outside raged as Ethan and Anna hurried to gather their belongings. Scout, ever vigilant, paced near the door, his barks echoing through the house as if urging them to move faster. Ethan grabbed their car keys and flashlight while Anna wrapped Noah tightly in a blanket, shielding him from the cold air that seeped through the cracks in the house. As they opened the front door, a powerful gust of wind nearly knocked Anna off balance. Snow swirled violently, creating an opaque wall of white that made it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. Scout charged into the storm, barking sharply as he led the way toward the family's SUV parked a short distance from the house. Ethan and Anna followed closely, bracing against the wind. Just as they reached the car, a deafening crack split the air. Ethan turned in time to see a large section of the roof over the nursery collapse inward. sending a cloud of snow and debris into the air. Anna gasped, clutching Noah tightly. If we hadn't left when we did. Her voice trailed off, the horrifying thought unspoken but clear. Ethan nodded, his face pale. We'll be safe at the Hendersons' place, he said, referring to their closest neighbors, who lived about a mile away. The drive to the Hendersons' house was harrowing. The snowstorm showed no signs of letting up, and the narrow mountain road was barely visible beneath the accumulating snow. Ethan gripped the wheel tightly, his knuckles white, while Anna sat in the back seat, holding Noah and keeping a reassuring hand on Scout. Scout had stopped barking, but his body remained tense, his ears alert to every sound. He seemed to sense the urgency of the moment, his presence a steadying force for Anna, who couldn't stop trembling. When they finally arrived at the Hendersons' house, the warm light glowing from the windows was a welcome sight. The Hendersons, an older couple who had lived in the area for decades, welcomed the Carters inside without hesitation. "Good thing you got out when you did," Mr. Henderson said as Ethan explained the situation. "That storm's a bad one. We've seen roofs collapse from less." Scout stayed close to Noah, lying at Anna's feet as the family huddled together in the living room. Despite the warmth and safety of the Hendersons' home, the memory of the collapsing roof lingered, a stark reminder of how close they'd come to disaster. The next morning, as the storm subsided, Ethan ventured back to the house with Mr. Henderson to assess the damage. What he saw confirmed his worst fears. The roof over the nursery had caved in completely, and the surrounding walls had begun to buckle. The structural damage Greg had warned about was worse than they'd anticipated. Scout, who had accompanied them, sniffed around the rubble, his tail low and his posture cautious. Ethan watched him, a new sense of respect forming. "He knew," Ethan murmured. "He knew all along." Ethan stood in the wreckage of his family's home, the reality of the situation sinking in. The roof above the nursery had completely collapsed, and the damage extended into the nearby walls and flooring. Snow covered the debris, adding an eerie quietness to the destruction. Beside him, Scout moved cautiously, sniffing every corner as if double-checking that the danger had passed. By midday, word of the Carter situation had spread through the small Montana community. Neighbors and friends arrived with offers of help, bringing warm meals, tools, and support. Mr. Henderson coordinated efforts to clear the debris, while a local construction crew inspected the remaining structure to determine what could be salvaged. Anna arrived with Noah, bundled tightly against the cold, and Scout immediately ran to her side, his wagging tail a rare moment of levity amidst the chaos. The sight of the collapsed nursery brought tears to Anna's eyes, but her gratitude for Scout's instincts overshadowed her sadness. "If it weren't for him," she began, her voice trembling. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'd be telling a very different story," he finished, as neighbors worked tirelessly to help. Scout became the unofficial hero of the day. Children patted his head, and adults shared stories of animals that had shown similar protective behaviors. One elderly neighbor, Mrs. Cleary, remarked, "Dogs like Scout aren't just pets, they're guardians. He saved your family." Plain and simple. Ethan, who had always been practical and somewhat skeptical of attributing intelligence or emotional depth to animals, found himself looking at Scout in a new light. "I've always thought of him as a good dog," he admitted to Mr. Henderson. "But now I realize he's so much more than that." That evening, as the family settled back at the Hendersons' home, they began discussing their next steps. The construction crew had confirmed that the house could be repaired, but it would take weeks, possibly months, to complete the work. "We'll need a temporary place to stay," Ethan said, looking at Anna. "Somewhere safe for Noah and Scout." Anna nodded. "Safety first, but when we go back, I want to make sure the house is better than it ever was. No more risks." The conversation shifted to Scout. His unwavering dedication had not only saved them but also brought to light how much the family owed to his instincts. Ethan proposed setting up a small fund to support local animal shelters in Scout's honor, ensuring other families could experience the same bond and protection they had. That night, as the Carters prepared for bed, Scout lay curled at the foot of Noah's crib in the Hendersons' guest room. Anna watched him for a long moment, stroking his golden fur. "You saved us," she whispered. Scout's tail thumped softly against the floor, as if acknowledging her words. In his quiet, steadfast way, he reminded the Carters of the strength found in love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond between a family and their dog. The days following the storm were a blur of decisions and actions. The Carters, now temporarily staying with the Hendersons, coordinated with a construction crew to begin rebuilding their home. Yet the reality of the situation loomed heavily over Ethan and Anna. Their house wasn't just damaged, it was on the verge of collapse, and the repairs would stretch their finances and patience to the limit, while the rest of the family adjusted to their temporary living situation. Scout's demeanor hadn't fully relaxed, despite the wreckage being stabilized by the construction crew. Scout still displayed signs of unease whenever he accompanied Ethan back to the house. His behavior puzzled Ethan, who assumed the worst was over. During one visit to check on the progress of the repairs, Scout refused to enter the house. He stood on the porch, barking sharply at the doorway. Ethan sighed, kneeling beside him. "What's wrong, buddy?" Ethan asked, scratching behind Scout's ears. But the dog's eyes remained fixed on the frame of the house, his tail stiff and his stance rigid. When the construction foreman approached, Ethan asked, "Could there be anything else wrong with the structure?" Scout's acting like there's still something dangerous. The foreman shrugged. "We've inspected every inch. Structurally, it's safe to work on. Dogs can be funny sometimes." Ethan nodded but couldn't shake the gnawing doubt Scout's behavior had planted in his mind. Later that evening, Ethan reviewed the construction plans with Anna. While flipping through the documents, he noticed something odd about the foundation's layout. A faint, dotted outline on one of the diagrams caught his eye. "This doesn't look like part of the original plan," he said, pointing to the section. "It's marked as an unknown cavity." Anna leaned over, studying the page. "What does that mean?" "It could be anything," Ethan replied. "An old storage space, maybe, but if it's directly under the nursery, it might explain some of the issues with the floor and walls above it." Feeling uneasy, Ethan decided to bring it up with the construction crew the next morning. The following day, Ethan and the foreman examined the area beneath the nursery, using a small access point near the crawl space. The crew discovered a hidden chamber beneath the house. The space, likely a remnant from the cabin's original construction decades ago, was filled with damp earth and partially rotted wood beams that had gone unnoticed during prior inspections. "This is the source of your structural problems," the foreman said grimly. "These beams are supporting part of the nursery. If they give way, it could take down the entire section of the house." Ethan's breath caught. "How long do we have?" "Depends on the weather and weight above it," the foreman replied. "But with another storm coming, we don't have much time." Ethan's heart raced as the foreman's words sank in. The hidden chamber beneath the nursery wasn't just a structural flaw, it was a ticking time bomb, with the forecast predicting another storm in just a few days. The family's situation had escalated into a race against time. Ethan and Anna called an emergency meeting with the construction crew and a few close neighbors, including the Hendersons. The crew explained the newly discovered danger. The beams beneath the nursery were too weak to withstand additional stress, especially with the approaching storm. "We need to reinforce the structure immediately," the foreman said. "That means bracing the chamber and replacing the damaged beams. But it's going to be a challenge to complete before the storm hits." Anna glanced at Noah, who was playing on a blanket with Scout beside him. "We can't risk waiting," she said firmly. "Whatever it takes, we'll do it." Mrs. Henderson nodded, her voice steady. "We'll help however we can. You're not alone in this." As word spread through the small community, Neighbors began showing up with tools, materials, and offers of assistance. It was an inspiring display of solidarity. But the clock was against them. While the crew worked tirelessly, Scout's behavior grew more erratic. He stayed close to Ethan and Anna, pacing nervously whenever they were near the house. At one point, he bolted into the crawl space beneath the nursery, barking sharply and scratching at the damp earth. "What's he doing now?" Ethan muttered as he crawled in after him. Scout had dug into a section of the chamber wall, exposing more rotted wood. Ethan shone his flashlight on the area and felt a chill run down his spine. The wood wasn't just damp, it was crumbling to the touch. "This isn't just structural," Ethan said aloud. "The rot is worse than we thought." He called the foreman over, who confirmed his fears. "If that section gives way, it'll take the entire load-bearing wall with it." The foreman said, "We need to replace it tonight." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the team worked under the glow of floodlights. The sound of hammers, saws, and drills filled the air as they reinforced the beams and braced the compromised wall. Ethan worked alongside the crew, his hands blistered and his body aching, but he refused to stop. Anna stayed at the Hendersons' house with Noah, her heart pounding with worry as the hours ticked by. She kept Scout close, but the dog's anxious pacing made her nerves worse. By midnight, progress had been made, but the storm clouds had already begun to gather. The wind picked up, howling through the trees, and the first flakes of snow began to fall. "We're running out of time," the foreman warned. "We'll do what we can, but if the storm hits full force..." He didn't need to finish. By 2 a.m., the storm was in full swing. The wind lashed against the house, and snow piled quickly on the already weakened roof. The construction crew worked with desperate urgency, bracing the beams beneath the hidden chamber and reinforcing the compromised sections of the foundation. Ethan stayed with them, his body exhausted but his mind sharp with adrenaline. Every creak of the wood and gust of wind seemed like a warning that time was running out. Back at the Hendersons' house, Scout's agitation reached a breaking point. He paced the living room relentlessly, barking at the window and scratching at the door. Anna tried to calm him, but nothing worked. "What's wrong, boy?" she whispered, kneeling beside him. Scout looked at her with wide, anxious eyes, then bolted toward the door again. Mrs. Henderson frowned. "He's been acting like that for hours. Maybe he senses something's wrong at the house." Anna's chest tightened. She picked up Noah and wrapped him in a thick blanket. "I think we need to go back," she said firmly. "But it's dangerous in this weather," Mrs. Henderson protested. "I know," Anna replied, her voice trembling. "But Scout knows something we don't. We have to trust him." As Anna and Scout arrived at the construction site, the wind howled like a living thing. Snow swirled in every direction, reducing visibility to mere feet. Ethan spotted the headlights of their car and ran out to meet them, his face etched with surprise and concern. "What are you doing here?" he shouted over the storm. Scout wouldn't stop pacing, Anna explained, clutching Noah tightly. "He knows something's still wrong." Ethan glanced at Scout, who immediately bolted toward the house, barking frantically. Without hesitation, Ethan and Anna followed him, along with the foreman and a few workers. Inside the crawl space, Scout clawed at a section of earth near the braced beams. Ethan crouched down, shining his flashlight on the area. His heart sank. The earth beneath the beams was shifting, the moisture from years of water damage loosening the ground. One of the new supports creaked ominously. "It's not going to hold," the foreman said grimly. "The weight from the storm is too much." Realizing the danger, Ethan turned to the workers. "Everyone out, now!" The crew scrambled to grab their tools and retreat from the house. Ethan and Anna ran back outside, where the snow had turned into icy sleet. Scout stayed behind, barking sharply at the crawl space as if urging everyone to move faster. Just as the last worker exited the house, a deafening crack echoed through the air. Ethan turned in time to see the roof above the nursery collapse inward. sending wood and snow crashing into the room below. Scout leapt out of the crawl space just in time, his golden fur streaked with dust and debris. Anna cried out, scooping him into her arms while Ethan stared at the wreckage, his mind reeling. The scene was chaotic as the house groaned under the weight of the storm. Snow poured through the gaping hole where the nursery had once stood, and the remaining walls trembled as if on the verge of collapse. Ethan and Anna huddled near the Hendersons' truck, cradling Noah and Scout, their breaths visible in the freezing air. "We barely made it," Anna whispered, her voice trembling as she clutched Scout close. Ethan placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "But we did, thanks to him." He looked down at Scout, whose body was still tense, his eyes scanning the wreckage as if ensuring everyone was safe. The construction foreman approached, his expression grim. "The house won't survive the night in this storm," he said. "We've stabilized what we could, but the damage is too severe. It's not just the nursery. Other sections of the structure are compromised now." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. "Then it's over. We'll salvage what we can in the morning. But the house is done." Anna tightened her grip on Noah, her tears mixing with the cold sleet on her cheeks. "It was our home," she whispered. Ethan pulled her into an embrace. "Homes can be rebuilt. What matters is that we're all safe." Scout, as if understanding the gravity of the moment, let out a soft whine and leaned against Anna's leg, his warmth offering comfort amid the freezing chaos. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving a serene but stark landscape. Snow blanketed the ruined house, and the sun cast an eerie glow over the wreckage. Ethan and Anna returned with the construction crew to survey the damage. Neighbors began arriving, one by one, bringing warm food, blankets, and words of encouragement. The Hendersons took charge of coordinating the community effort, rallying volunteers to help clear debris and recover what could be salvaged. Mrs. Cleary, the elderly neighbor who had praised Scout earlier, arrived with a small notebook in hand. "We've started a fund to help you rebuild," she announced. "Everyone in town wants to contribute." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't know how we'll ever repay you all." Mrs. Cleary smiled. "You already have, dear. Scout's story has brought this town together. We're just returning the favor." As the family adjusted to their new reality, Scout became a local hero. His unwavering dedication to protecting Noah and his role in alerting the family to the hidden dangers of the house earned him a place in the hearts of everyone in town. A small ceremony was held at the community center a week later to honor Scout's bravery. Children gathered to pet him, and the mayor presented him with a medal that read, "For loyalty and courage." Anna held Noah as she watched Scout bask in the attention, his tail wagging happily. "He saved us all," she whispered to Ethan. Ethan nodded. "And he taught us something, too. You don't need words to show love or loyalty. Sometimes, actions speak louder than anything." Though the Carter's house was gone, their story wasn't one of loss. It was one of resilience. With the help of their community, they began planning a new home, one that would be stronger and safer for their family. As for Scout, his role as the family's guardian continued. Every night, he would curl up near Noah's crib, his ears twitching at the faintest sound. And every morning, he would greet Ethan and Anna with a wagging tail and a reminder of the bond that had saved their lives. In the end, Scout wasn't just a dog. He was a protector, a hero, and a symbol of the unbreakable bond between a family and their loyal companion. The days following the storm were filled with bittersweet moments for the Carter family. Their home, once a symbol of their dreams and aspirations, now stood in ruins. Yet, as Ethan, Anna, Noah, and Scout took refuge in the Hendersons' warm and welcoming home, they found solace in the safety and support of their community. The Hendersons, along with the other neighbors, ensured that the Carters felt supported during their time of displacement. From warm meals to helping care for Noah, the community's kindness shone through every gesture. Scout, who had become the center of attention, seemed to thrive in the love and gratitude showered upon him. Children from the neighborhood often visited to play with him, while adults shared stories of their own loyal pets, inspired by Scout's bravery. For Ethan, these moments were a reminder of what truly mattered. "It's not the walls or the roof that make a home," he said to Anna one evening as they sat by the Hendersons' fireplace. "It's us, our family, and Scout's the one who kept it that way." Anna smiled, stroking Scout's fur as he lay by her feet. "He's not just a dog," she whispered. "He's family." Ethan and Anna decided it was time to move forward. With the community fund organized by Mrs. Cleary and contributions from friends and neighbors, they began planning their new home. Ethan, as an architect, poured his heart into the design, ensuring that the house would be not only structurally sound but also a true sanctuary for their family. The new plans included a special space for Scout, a sunlit corner in the living room with a cozy bed and plenty of room for him to rest while keeping watch over the family. "He deserves it," Anna said, smiling as Ethan sketched the design. The process of rebuilding brought the Carters even closer. Each decision, from choosing the materials to selecting the layout, felt like a step toward reclaiming what they had lost. And through it all, Scout remained by their side, a steadfast reminder of the courage and loyalty that had saved them. While the rebuilding efforts progressed, Scout's role in the community grew. Inspired by his bravery, the local animal shelter invited Anna and Scout to participate in events aimed at raising awareness for pet adoptions. Scout quickly became a symbol of the bond between humans and animals, encouraging more families to open their homes to rescue pets. At one event, a young boy approached Anna, his eyes wide with admiration as he pet Scout. "Is he really the dog who saved your baby?" the boy asked. Anna nodded, her smile warm. "Yes, he is, and he saved all of us in his own way." The boy grinned. "I think he's a superhero." Anna laughed softly, watching as Scout wagged his tail. "He is to us," she said, as the construction of their new home progressed. The Carter family found themselves overwhelmed by the outpouring of generosity from their neighbors. Volunteers showed up daily to assist the construction crew, offering their skills, tools, and time. Even children from the neighborhood chipped in, creating hand-painted signs that read, "Welcome Home, Carter Family," and "Scout's Heroes Den," to celebrate the family's resilience and Scout's bravery. Scout had become more than just the Carter family's loyal dog. He was a symbol of hope for the entire community. His story of courage was featured in the local newspaper, and soon after, a regional news channel reached out to interview the Carters. The reporter, a warm and friendly woman named Linda, arrived one sunny afternoon with a camera crew. As she sat with Ethan, Anna, and Scout on the Hendersons' porch, she asked, "What was going through your mind when you realized how much danger your family was in?" Ethan glanced at Scout, who lay at his feet. "Honestly, at first, I didn't take it seriously. I thought Scout was just being overprotective, but he never gave up. He kept warning us until we listened. If it weren't for him..." His voice trailed off, and he shook his head, emotion tightening his throat. Anna picked up where he left off. "Scout saved us," she said simply, her voice steady, "and he taught us to trust him and to trust each other. He reminded us that family means looking out for one another, no matter what." The interview ended with Scout receiving a treat on camera, wagging his tail as if he understood his role in their story. Months of hard work and determination finally culminated in the completion of the Carters' new home. The structure was modern yet cozy, built with safety and warmth in mind. The sunlit living room, with its wide windows and Scout's designated corner, was the heart of the house. On the day they moved in, the Carters held a small celebration to thank everyone who had supported them. Neighbors gathered in the yard, enjoying a potluck dinner while children played with Scout, who seemed to revel in the attention. Mrs. Cleary stood to give a short speech. "This family showed us what it means to persevere," she said, "and Scout showed us that heroes come in all shapes and sizes, even with 4 legs and a wagging tail." The crowd cheered, and Ethan and Anna smiled as they held Noah, who giggled at the sound of the applause. Scout, as if sensing the attention was on him, barked once, earning laughter from the crowd. That night, as the house grew quiet and the last of the neighbors went home, Ethan and Anna sat together in their new living room. Noah slept soundly in his crib, and Scout lay contentedly in his corner, watching the fire crackle in the hearth. Ethan placed an arm around Anna's shoulders. "We did it," he said softly. "No," Anna corrected, looking at Scout. "We all did it." Scout thumped his tail against the floor, as if agreeing. The first night in their new home felt like a dream. As Ethan and Anna lay in bed, they listened to the soft hum of the wind outside, now muffled by the sturdy new walls of their house. The anxiety and fear that had once plagued them were replaced by a sense of peace and gratitude. In the corner of their room, Scout lay curled up on his new bed, his tail occasionally wagging in his sleep. Ethan couldn't help but smile. "I think he knows we're home," he whispered to Anna. Anna nodded, her eyes misty. "He deserves this as much as we do. He's the reason we're here to enjoy it." The next morning, sunlight streamed through the wide windows of the living room, illuminating the fresh paint and new furniture. Scout padded into the room, his nails clicking softly against the polished wood floors. He sniffed the air and then settled into his designated corner, where a soft bed and a chew toy awaited him. As Anna prepared breakfast, Ethan took a moment to step outside onto the porch. The mountain air was crisp, and the snow from the storm had begun to melt, revealing patches of grass and the promise of spring. He looked back at the house, now standing strong against the backdrop of the Rocky Mountains, and felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Scout joined him on the porch, nudging Ethan's hand with his nose. "You did good, Scout," Ethan said, scratching behind the dog's ears. "You kept us safe, and now we've got a fresh start." In the weeks that followed, Scout's story continued to inspire others. The local shelter, where Scout had once lived before being adopted, experienced a surge in adoptions thanks to his newfound fame. Families who had read about Scout's bravery decided to give other rescue dogs a chance, leading to dozens of happy endings for animals in need. Anna and Scout became frequent visitors at the shelter, participating in events that raised awareness for rescue animals. Scout, with his calm demeanor and wagging tail, became a favorite among children, who eagerly listened to the story of how he saved his family. One day, a little girl approached Anna, holding her mother's hand. "Is this Scout?" she asked shyly. Anna smiled. "Yes, this is him." The girl knelt down and hugged Scout, her small arms wrapping around his neck. "Thank you for being a hero," she whispered. Scout licked her cheek in response, earning giggles from the girl and a warm smile from Anna. As the months turned into years, the Carters' lives settled into a happy rhythm. Noah grew older, learning to walk with Scout by his side, always ready to steady him if he stumbled. The bond between boy and dog grew deeper with time, a reflection of the loyalty and love that had saved their family. Every evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Ethan, Anna, Noah, and Scout would gather on the porch, watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink. Scout, ever the vigilant guardian, would sit at their feet, his amber eyes scanning the horizon. "Home," Anna said one evening, leaning against Ethan. Ethan nodded. Thanks to him, Scout thumped his tail once, the sound of quiet contentment that said everything words could not. The story of Scout and the Carter family is more than just a tale of survival. It's a powerful reminder of the bonds between humans and animals, the instincts that guide them, and the resilience that emerges when families and communities come together. As their story spread, it sparked conversations that reached far beyond their small Montana town, touching on themes of loyalty, responsibility, and the importance of listening to those who can't speak in words. At its heart, Scout's story exemplifies the unwavering loyalty that animals, especially dogs, show toward their families, despite the dangers and uncertainties. Scout never wavered in his determination to protect Noah and the Carters. His persistence in warning them about the structural dangers of their home saved their lives, proving that dogs are more than companions. They are protectors and guardians. This theme resonated deeply with audiences, especially those who have experienced similar moments of connection with their pets. Stories began to surface of other animals alerting their owners to dangers like gas leaks, fires, or intruders, further reinforcing the idea that animals have an innate ability to sense what humans often overlook. A local journalist covering the story wrote, "Scout's loyalty reminds us that our bonds with animals are built on trust and love. They protect us not out of obligation, but because they see us as part of their pack." Another significant takeaway from the Carters' experience is the importance of trusting instincts, both human and animal. Initially, Ethan dismissed Scout's warnings as mere quirks, assuming that there was no real danger. It wasn't until Scout's behavior became impossible to ignore that the family took action. This aspect of the story sparked a debate about how often humans overlook signs, whether from their own intuition or from animals. Many argued that modern society has dulled our ability to trust our instincts, relying instead on logic and tangible evidence. Scout's actions served as a reminder that instincts, both human and animal, often carry truths that we can't immediately see. His persistence in the face of dismissal showed the value of listening and observing, even when there's no immediate proof of danger. Scout's journey, from a rescue dog in a shelter to a family hero, also highlights the transformative power of second chances. The Carters gave Scout a home, but in return, he gave them his unwavering loyalty and ultimately saved their lives. This mutual relationship underscores the responsibility humans have toward animals, especially those who have been abandoned or mistreated. As Scout's story gained traction, it inspired others to adopt rescue animals, leading to an increase in adoptions at the local shelter. Every animal deserves a chance to be loved and to love in return, Anna said during a community event. Scout wasn't just a dog we saved, he was the one who saved us. Scout's story didn't just inspire acts of kindness toward animals. It also raised questions about the deeper relationships between humans and animals, sparking discussions on societal attitudes toward pets, loyalty, and responsibility. These debates highlighted both the emotional and ethical dimensions of the bond we share with animals, making Scout's story a source of reflection as well as inspiration. For centuries, animals have been seen as workers, companions, and even protectors. However, stories like Scout's challenge us to see them as something more, sentient beings with their own instincts, emotions, and unique abilities. In the Carters' case, Scout wasn't just a dog who lived with them. He was an integral member of the family. His instincts, combined with his loyalty, made him a hero in a way that transcends traditional notions of what pets are meant to do. This raised an important question. Should animals be seen solely as companions, or should their ability to perceive and respond to their environment make us rethink their role in our lives? Many people who heard Scout's story began sharing their own experiences of how their pets had sensed emotions, illnesses, or dangers before anyone else realized what was happening. An animal behaviorist who followed the story noted, "Animals like Scout remind us that their roles go beyond what we expect. They sense our moods, our fears, and even dangers we can't see. If we're willing to listen, they can teach us things about ourselves and the world around us." Scout's bravery not only saved the Carter family, but also brought their community together in a profound way. The generosity shown by neighbors, who rallied to support the Carters in their time of need, demonstrated the strength of human connection and collective action. This aspect of the story resonated with audiences far and wide, reminding them that tragedies, while devastating, can also be opportunities for unity. The Carters' small Montana town became a shining example of how communities can come together to help one another rebuild, not just physically, but emotionally as well. During a community event honoring Scout, Ethan spoke about the role his neighbors played. "Scout may have saved our family, but this community saved our future. You reminded us that we're never truly alone when we face challenges." One of the most compelling discussions sparked by Scout's story was the debate over whether his actions were driven by training, instinct, or a combination of both. As a rescue dog, Scout had likely been exposed to training before being adopted by the Carters. But it was clear that his actions during the storm went beyond learned behavior. Some argued that Scout's actions were purely instinctual, a natural response to danger. Others believed that his bond with the Carters played a significant role, motivating him to protect them at all costs, regardless of the perspective. One thing was clear: Scout's story was a testament to the incredible potential of the human-animal bond. Whether through instinct, training, or love, he had demonstrated the profound ways animals enrich and protect our lives. Scout's story continued to resonate with people long after the Carter family had rebuilt their home. It became a symbol not just of survival and loyalty, but also of the deep connection between humans and animals. As the story spread through social media, local news, and community events, it sparked profound reflections on the value of trust, resilience, and mutual care. One of the most poignant aspects of Scout's story is his background as a rescue dog. Before being adopted by the Carters, Scout had faced uncertainty and neglect. Yet, given a second chance, he became an irreplaceable part of their family, a hero whose actions saved their lives. This idea of redemption, both for Scout and the Carters, resonated deeply with many. It highlighted how even those who have been overlooked or undervalued can find purpose and meaning when given the opportunity. At a community fundraiser for the local animal shelter, Anna shared her thoughts. "When we adopted Scout, we thought we were giving him a better life. But the truth is, he gave us something we could never repay. He showed us the power of love and loyalty, and he reminded us that everyone deserves a second chance." Scout's story inspired an outpouring of support for rescue animals, with adoption rates at the local shelter doubling in the months following the Carters' ordeal. Families shared how adopting pets had enriched their lives, creating a ripple effect of compassion and hope. The Carter family's experience also underscored the idea that adversity can strengthen bonds, both within a family and in a community. Faced with the loss of their home and the dangers of the storm, the Carters relied not only on Scout's instincts but also on each other's resilience and the support of their neighbors. This theme resonated with many who had faced their own challenges. It reminded them that hardships, while painful, can bring people closer and reveal the strength of human connection. Ethan reflected on this during an interview. "Losing our house was devastating, but it showed us what really matters. Our family, our community, and this amazing dog. Those are the things that kept us going. We came out of it stronger than ever." At its core, Scout's story carries a universal message: the importance of trust and loyalty in relationships, whether between humans or between humans and animals. These bonds are what make us stronger in the face of life's challenges. Scout's actions were a reminder that love and loyalty transcend species. His unwavering dedication to protecting his family inspired countless others to appreciate the animals in their lives and the unique ways they contribute to our well-being. In a final speech at a community event, Anna summed it up perfectly. "Scout taught us to listen, to trust, and to love without limits. He's not just a hero to us. He's a reminder of everything good in this world." As the Carters settled into their new home, Scout continued to be a source of joy and inspiration. His story became a legend in their town, a tale passed down to remind everyone of the extraordinary power of love and loyalty. And every evening, as the sun set over the Rocky Mountains, Scout lay by Noah's side, ever the vigilant guardian, a hero in every sense of the word.